Ladies and gentlemen, contain is a simple truth that many refuse to accept. If you decide to do something meaningful with your life, you will be criticized. The moment you step outside the comfortable, the moment you challenge mediocrity, the critics will appear. They will tell you what you can't do, what you shouldn't do, and why you're foolish for even trying. But here's the question: why should their voices be louder than your own? The reality is that most people criticizing you are not doing so from a place of wisdom. They are speaking from their own fears, their own insecurities, their own regrets. They see you striving for something beyond the ordinary, and it reminds them of their own unwillingness to take risks. You must understand this. If you are going to lead your own life, you cannot let others lead your mind. You have to be the one who decides what matters to you. You have to be the one who takes responsibility for your success and your failures. Because in the end, it is not the critic who will have to live with your choices. It is you. Now let's be clear, this is not about ignoring all feedback. Constructive criticism, when given by those who truly understand the journey, is invaluable. But mindless negativity, the kind designed to tear you down rather than build you up, should be met with one response: silence. You owe no explanation to those who contribute nothing to your growth. Your path is yours to walk. It won't be easy, and at times you may feel completely alone, but I promise you this: when you look back, you won't remember the critics. You will remember the moments you stood your ground, the moments you chose discipline over doubt, the moments you kept moving forward despite the noise. So take control, set your own rules, ignore the critics, and most importantly, never let fear stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. The power of individual responsibility. There's a fundamental truth that many people ignore. You are responsible for your own life. No one else is coming to save you, to hand you a perfect life, or to ensure your success. That burden and that privilege falls entirely on you. And once you fully accept that, everything changes. See, many people spend their lives waiting for permission. They wait for society to approve their dreams, for their friends and family to support their choices, for the world to give them the right conditions before they take action. But the reality is, if you keep waiting for those external validations, you'll never move forward. There will always be someone telling you why your dreams are unrealistic, why your plans won't work, or why you should be more practical. And if you listen to them, you surrender control over your own life. Now, it's important to understand that taking responsibility for your life doesn't mean ignoring the fact that life is unfair. It is unfair. Some people start with more advantages than others. Some face challenges that others never will. But the hard truth is that dwelling on unfairness will not improve your situation. Complaining about how others have it easier will not bring you any closer to success. The only thing that can change your life is your own effort, your own willingness to act despite the obstacles in your way. And here's something you must accept. When you take full responsibility for your life, you automatically set yourself apart from the majority. Most people prefer to blame external factors, their upbringing, their boss, the government, society, for why they aren't where they want to be. They refuse to accept that their choices, their habits, and their mindset play a crucial role in their outcomes. And because they refuse to take responsibility, they stay stuck. But the moment you own your circumstances, even the ones you didn't create, you gain something incredibly powerful: control. Because if you're responsible for your own life, that means you also have the power to change it. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are not doomed to repeat the patterns of your past. You get to decide how you respond to challenges, how much effort you put in, and how far you're willing to go to achieve your goals. This is where many people struggle. Responsibility is heavy. It requires discipline, patience, and an uncomfortable level of self-awareness. It forces you to admit when you're making excuses, when you're being lazy, when you're avoiding the hard work required to improve. And a lot of people would rather live in denial than face that truth. But if you want real success, if you want a life that is truly your own, you must be willing to carry that burden. So what does this mean for your journey? It means you stop waiting. You stop looking for permission. You stop blaming others. Instead, you focus entirely on what you can do to move forward. No matter how small the step, no matter how difficult the road, you take ownership of every decision. And when the critics come, and they will come, you remind yourself that their words don't matter. Because at the end of the day, they don't live your life, you do. And if they aren't the ones who will deal with the consequences of your choices, then they have no right to dictate your path. So stand tall, take full ownership, and walk forward, knowing that your life is in your hands, where it belongs. Criticism is inevitable, but growth is optional. The moment you decide to do something meaningful, criticism will follow. That's not a possibility, it's a certainty. Whether you aim to build a business, improve yourself, or simply live life on your own terms, there will always be people who have something negative to say. And here's the harsh reality. Most of these critics aren't offering wisdom. They're not providing constructive feedback to help you grow. No, most criticism comes from people who are either afraid to take risks themselves or unwilling to see others succeed. Your ambition, your willingness to step outside the norm, threatens their comfort. It reminds them of what they're not doing, and instead of improving themselves, they try to pull you back down. So what do? You accept that criticism is inevitable, but you don't allow it to control you. See, there's a critical distinction between useful feedback and destructive criticism. Useful feedback comes from those who understand your journey, those who have experience and genuine insight. It comes from mentors, from people who have built something themselves, from those who want to see you improve. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, comes from people who have no real knowledge or stake in your success. These are the voices you must learn to tune out. Think about it. If you were training to be an athlete, would you take advice from someone who has never set foot in a gym? If you were learning to build a business, would you listen to someone who has never run one? Of course not. Yet so many people allow themselves to be discouraged by the opinions of those who have never even attempted to do what they're criticizing. And often the harshest critics are the ones who have achieved the least. The people at the top, those who have built something meaningful, don't waste their time tearing others down. They don't mock those who are trying. Instead, they either offer guidance or they stay focused on their own path. It's the insecure, the unfulfilled, and the bitter who are the loudest in their criticism. So what should you do when criticism comes? First, ask yourself, is this feedback useful? If it is, if it's coming from someone who understands the journey, then listen, learn, and apply what is helpful. But if it's just negativity with no value, ignore it completely. Don't argue. Don't defend yourself. Don't waste energy proving yourself to people who don't matter. Second, develop resilience. You have to be mentally tough enough to move forward despite the noise. This means detaching yourself from the need for approval. The reality is, you will never please everyone. If you try to shape your life around the opinions of others, you will end up living a life that isn't yours. And third, focus on growth instead of validation. If your goal is to be liked by everyone, you will always be at the mercy of public opinion. But if your goal is to improve, to become better, stronger, and more capable, then criticism loses its power. Because at that point, it's not about being accepted, it's about becoming undeniable. You have two choices. You can let criticism discourage you, or you can let it sharpen you. You can let it define you, or you can use it as fuel to push harder. The critics will always be there. The real question is, will you let them stop you, or will you keep moving forward, knowing that your growth is worth far more than their opinions? The choice is yours. Courage over conformity. Most people live their lives according to a script they never wrote. They follow the expectations of their family, their peers, and society, even when it leads them toward a life they don't truly want. They trade authenticity for acceptance, passion for predictability, and courage for comfort. But if you want to build something meaningful, if you want to carve out a life that is truly your own, you must have the courage to stand apart. Because the truth is, the moment you step away from the herd, the resistance begins. People will question your decisions. They will tell you that you're making a mistake. They will call you reckless, unrealistic, or even selfish. And why? Because your willingness to challenge the status quo makes them uncomfortable. Your pursuit of something greater reminds them of the risks they were too afraid to take. You see, most people conform not because they believe in the path they're following, but because it's easier. It's easier to fit in than to stand out. It's easier to go with the flow than to swim against the current. But easy does not mean right, and easy does not mean fulfilling. Every great thinker, every innovator, every leader who has ever changed the world had to go against the grain. They had to defy the expectations placed upon them. They had to face doubt, criticism, and even rejection. But what separated them from the rest was their refusal to let fear dictate their choices. And that's the real battle, not against external critics, but against internal doubt. Because when you choose courage over conformity, there will be moments when you question yourself. You will wonder if you made the wrong choice. You will feel the weight of uncertainty. That's normal. That's part of the journey. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is this: the successful push forward anyway. Think about it this way. What's the alternative? Living a life dictated by the expectations of others, waking up every day knowing you're not truly in control of your own path? That's not living, that's existing. So what does it take to break free from conformity? First, clarity. You must know what you want, not what others want for you. If you don't define your own path, the world will define it for you. Second, resilience. The moment you step outside the norm, people will push back. You need to be strong enough to handle that without folding. Third, self-respect. When you conform, you betray yourself. When you choose courage, you honor yourself. And at the end of the day, your relationship with yourself is the most important one you have. Understand this: fear is a test. Every time you choose courage, you grow stronger. Every time you conform out of fear, you weaken your sense of self. The more you stand by your decisions, the more confidence you build. And before long, you realize that the opinions of others have no power over you unless you give it to them. So I ask you, will you live by your own values or by the expectations of others? Will you choose courage over conformity? Because in the end, the only person who has to live with your choices is you. Mastery is earned, not given. There's a dangerous lie that too many people believe, that success is about luck, privilege, or talent. That the people who achieved great things were simply handed opportunities that others weren't. It's an easy excuse because it removes personal responsibility. But here's the truth. Mastery is never given, it is earned. No one becomes great by accident. No one builds a powerful skill set, a strong mind, or an exceptional life without deliberate effort. Behind every success story is years of discipline, sacrifice, and relentless work. Yet, people often look at the end result, the achievements, the wealth, the recognition, and ignore the process that led there. And because they don't see the process, they assume it doesn't exist. They assume that if success isn't immediate, it's impossible. That if they struggle, it means they're not meant to succeed. But that's nonsense. Every person who has ever reached mastery started where you are, as a beginner, with no experience, no skills, and plenty of doubts. The difference is, they kept going when others quit. And that's where most people fail, not because they aren't capable, but because they aren't willing to endure the struggle required to become competent. Mastery is a long, often frustrating process. It requires failure. It requires repetition. It requires being terrible at something before you become good. And in today's world, where instant gratification is expected, most people don't have the patience for that. But if you want to succeed, if you want to build something that lasts, you must shift your mindset. You must see every challenge as part of the process rather than a reason to stop. So how do you earn mastery? First, embrace discipline. It doesn't matter how much talent you have if you don't put in the work. The best athletes, artists, and thinkers in the world all have one thing in common. They show up day after day, regardless of motivation. They don't rely on feeling like it. They act despite how they feel. Second, be willing to fail. If you're not failing, you're not learning. Every mistake is an opportunity to improve, but most people see failure as proof that they should quit, when in reality it's proof that they're making progress. Third, focus on long-term growth. Most people want results now. They want to master a skill in a week. They want success in a month. But that's not how anything of value is built. True mastery takes years. If you accept that, you free yourself from frustration. You stop looking for shortcuts and start putting in the real work. And lastly, stop making excuses. If you aren't where you want to be, it's not because of external circumstances. It's because you haven't put in enough time and effort yet. That might be hard to hear, but it's the truth. Success isn't reserved for the chosen few. It's available to anyone willing to earn it. So the question is simple. Will you put in the work or will you settle for mediocrity? Because no one is going to hand you mastery. You have to take it. Your journey, your rules. At the end of the day, no one else is living your life. No one else is waking up in your body, thinking your thoughts, or facing the consequences of your decisions. So why should anyone else dictate how you live? Too many people waste their lives trying to meet other people's expectations, trying to fit into a mold that was never designed for them. They choose careers they don't love because society says they should. They follow traditions that don't resonate with them because they fear judgment. They silence their dreams because someone told them they were unrealistic. But here's what you must understand. You are the only person who will live with the results of your choices. The people telling you what to do, they won't deal with the regret if you listen to them and end up miserable. They won't feel the emptiness if you abandon your passion. They won't suffer the consequences if you take their advice and it leads you nowhere. So, if you're the one who has to live with your choices, then doesn't it make sense that you should be the one making them? Now, this doesn't mean you should reject all guidance or ignore wisdom from those who have walked the path before you. Learning from others is valuable, but at the end of the day, their opinions should inform your decisions, not control them. You can take advice, but the final choice must always be yours. The reality is, when you start setting your own rules, when you decide to live life on your own terms, people will push back. They will criticize you. They will call you selfish, irresponsible, or foolish. And do you know why? Because most people are uncomfortable with those who refuse to conform. When you live by your own rules, you remind others that they too have the power to do the same. But instead of being inspired, many will resent you for it. Because if you succeed, it forces them to face an uncomfortable truth. They could have done the same, but they chose not to. So they will try to pull you back in line. They will tell you to be realistic. They will pressure you to stay safe, to follow the script, to live by their standards. But the moment you give in to that pressure, you lose something far more valuable than their approval. You lose yourself. So, what's the solution? Decide that your journey belongs to you and no one else. That means pursuing the career, business, or lifestyle that fulfills you, not the one that pleases others. Setting boundaries and refusing to let people guilt you into choices that don't align with your values. Trusting yourself more than the noise of public opinion. This is not an easy path. It requires confidence. It requires the ability to stand alone when necessary. But the alternative, living a life that isn't truly yours, is far worse. So ask yourself, are you living the life you want or the life others expect of you? Because time is passing, whether you choose to take control or not. And one day you will look back and either be proud that you lived life on your terms or regret that you let others decide for you. Make sure it's the first. Your journey, your rules.